Tensions rise between the U.S. and Canada after a Reagan-themed ad airs north of the border. Social Security benefits are set for a boost, and new data ranks one U.S. state number one for job openings. Here's a hint. It's not Texas or California. Any guesses? And on that note, here's the trivia question to chew on while you listen today. Which U.S. state has the shortest population by average height? I'll have the answer for you at the end of the show. It's Saturday, October 25th, and this is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Hello, thanks for joining me. I'm Amy Hess, your weekend host. I also host the Feel Good Flyover. And hey, did you catch the latest episode yesterday? We're trying something new with those Friday shows, but you'll have to tune in to find out what. I'm pretty excited about it. And now that I've created a little mystery about yesterday, let's bring some clarity to today. Get ready for takeoff. We start today with rising tensions between the U.S. and Canada. President Trump has ended trade talks after Ontario aired a TV ad featuring Ronald Reagan criticizing tariffs and trade barriers. The ad, posted on X by Ontario Premier Doug Ford, used an edited version of a 1987 Reagan radio speech. But the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation says the ad was spliced out of sequence and that it's considering legal options. Trade accused Canada of using the ad to interfere with an upcoming Supreme Court case on the legality of his tariffs. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said his government will resume talks when the U.S. is ready. Want to hear the ad? We've got it linked in the show notes. Next, Social Security benefits are getting a boost. The government announced a 2.8% increase in retirement benefits for 2026. That's about $56 more per month for the average recipient. The higher payments will start showing up in January, helping retirees keep pace with rising costs. Social Security remains the primary source of income for roughly 40% of older Americans, according to AARP. This year's increase is slightly higher than the 2.5% adjustment in 2025. Social Security Commissioner Frank Besignano said the cost of living adjustment is, quote, a vital part of how Social Security delivers on its mission. And speaking of money, if you're still in the workforce, you might be wondering where the jobs are. A new report ranks Oklahoma number one in the nation for job openings, thanks to a revitalized energy industry driving employment growth and strengthening its labor market. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics compared open and filled positions across every state. Oklahoma posted a 5.5% job opening rate, with Alaska, Michigan, West Virginia, and Georgia rounding out the top five, all above 5.2%. Michigan, Georgia, Kentucky, and the Carolinas were also near or above 5%, boosted by electric vehicle and battery manufacturing investments. At the other end of the list, California and Texas had the lowest job vacancy rates, 4% and 3.7%. But those two states still represent the nation's largest labor markets, with more than 1.3 million openings. Want to see where your state lands? We've got it linked in the show notes. Here's what's happening in U.S. politics this week. First up, President Trump will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea next week while attending a summit in Asia, the White House has confirmed. It will be the first face-to-face meeting since Trump's re-election. Next, police shot and injured a U-Haul truck driver who backed into a U.S. Coast Guard base in San Francisco that had been the site of an earlier protest. The driver was being held after attempting to weaponize the vehicle to ram into Coast Guard base Alameda. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is sending the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and its carrier Air Wing to the Caribbean in a major escalation of force in the region. And former special counsel Jack Smith is asked to testify publicly after House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan demanded that Smith testify in a closed session about pre-election investigations into President Trump. Smith's team says he wants to speak openly to address what they call mischaracterizations about his alleged mishandling of Trump's classified documents and efforts to overturn the 2020 election. He's awaiting DOJ approval to make that appearance. And finally, former Alabama quarterback A.J. McCarron announced he's running for Alabama lieutenant governor as a Republican in 2026, citing the assassination of Charlie Kirk as a motivating factor to, quote, get off the sidelines and enter politics. Now it's time for extra stories just for you, our podcast listeners. First, New York Attorney General Letitia James pleaded not guilty Friday to federal mortgage fraud charges in Virginia. The case was brought by a Trump-appointed prosecutor after weeks of political pressure on the Justice Department. Prosecutors allege that James misrepresented a Virginia property to lock in a better mortgage rate. Her legal team is calling it retaliation for her past civil fraud case against President Trump. Hearings are scheduled for December to challenge both the legality of the prosecutor's appointment and what the defense calls, quote, vindictive prosecution. The trial is set to begin in January. Meanwhile, inflation trends are giving the Federal Reserve just enough breathing room to stay on track for a possible rate cut next week. The latest consumer price index, finally released after delays from the government shutdown, showed a 3% rise year over year for September. That's slightly higher than August, but still below most forecasts. The report also played a key role in setting the 2026 Social Security cost of living increase at 2.8%. With much of the government still closed, the Fed is now relying heavily on private data, but experts warn the lack of official numbers could muddy decision-making through the end of the year. And finally, in the Caribbean, Tropical Storm Melissa is gaining strength and could become a major hurricane by Sunday. As of Friday, the storm was inching closer to Jamaica and Haiti, with winds at 45 miles per hour and heavy rains already hitting parts of the region. Forecasters warn of up to 20 inches of rain in southwestern Haiti and eastern Jamaica, with catastrophic flash flooding and landslides possible. While Melissa isn't expected to make direct landfall on the U.S. mainland, its size and strength could still influence weather patterns up and down the Atlantic coast. You know, I get excited when I see Native Hydrate has sponsored another episode because that means I get to boost my hydration levels right in the middle of the episode. The older I get, I'll take whatever boost I can get. And for those of you just listening and not watching, yes, I have officially started mixing up these while I talk about them. Here at The Flyover, if we give a recommendation, it's legit. We walk the walk. All right, here's the deal. Most of us know that hydration is essential to just about every function in the body, but somehow 75% of Americans still don't drink enough fluids daily. And as we age, it gets even harder to stay hydrated. That's why I really love Native Path Hydrate. It's not just another drink mix. It's a clean formula packed with electrolytes, branched-chain amino acids, and all 9 essential amino acids to support hydration, energy, muscle health, basically all the good stuff. And unlike other hydration mixes that can hit you with over 1,000 milligrams of sodium, Native Hydrate keeps it simple with just 230 milligrams. That makes it perfect for everyday use. It's sugar-free, only 5 calories, and every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. That's confidence. So if you want to give your body the hydration it actually needs, visit nativehydrate.com/flyover or click the link in the show notes. Still ahead in today's Flyover, President Trump could be headed for a very unexpected meeting on the world stage. How is the NBA connected to the mob? And finally, someone in Alaska had some very vocal guests in their backyard. Stick around, those stories and more are coming up. But first, here's finance. Let's take a quick look at Friday's market close. All three major indexes finished up on the day. The Nasdaq gained 1.15%, the S&P 500 rose 0.79%, and the Dow Jones climbed 1.01%. In crypto, Bitcoin added 0.68%, and in commodities, gold dipped slightly, down 0.06% to close at $4,123.10 per ounce. Let's take a look at a few major headlines making waves around the globe. South Korean officials say there's a considerable chance that former President Trump could meet with North Korea's Kim Jong-un next week. Trump is set to visit South Korea for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. In Ukraine, President Zelensky is pressing Western allies to step up support, specifically asking for more long-range weapons and artillery systems. Zelensky says bolstering that firepower could help push Russia back to the negotiating table. And in Poland, a bizarre and dangerous moment. Two men were hospitalized after one of them discovered a World War II artillery shell in a forest and brought it home. The shell later exploded. Local police say both men had been drinking at the time. All right, let's take a lap around the sports world. We'll start with a story that feels straight out of a Martin Scorsese movie. An NBA gambling scandal just sparked federal indictments for 34 people, including several former NBA players and alleged members of the Gambino, Genovese, and Bonanno crime families. Meanwhile, a tough stretch continues for the U.S. women's national soccer team. They dropped an international friendly to Portugal 2-1, marking their third loss of the year. One more, and they'll hit a program record for most single-year losses in the team's four-decade history. And in the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder just pulled off their second double overtime win of the season, edging out the Pacers in a finals rematch Thursday night. 2025 Finals MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored a career-high 55 points. All right, time for a few fast ones in this weekend's Etc. section. And for more on any of these stories, we've got them all linked in the show notes. First up, the 2025 Nikon Comedy Wildlife Awards just dropped 40 side-splitting finalists, selected from a record 10,000 entries across 108 countries. If you need a laugh, this is your sign to take a look and click on the link at a fox, mid-faceplant, or attempting to breakdance. I don't know. You can be the judge there. Next, remember the $100 million Louvre heist from last week? Turns out the German designers behind the getaway ladder truck are now using the footage to promote their bucket lift in a spoof. Tagline, perfect if you're in a hurry. Gotta hand it to their marketing team. They're not missing any opportunities. And lastly, up in Alaska, a woman caught a herd of moose whining and groaning in her backyard while destroying her son's vegetable garden. Not exactly ideal, but it sounded to me like they were giving their compliments to the chef. All right, let's see how you answered on yesterday's poll. We asked, have you ever visited Niagara Falls? Here's how you answered. 49% said yes, 38% said no, and 13% said it's on the list. I've got to go with 13% of you here on this one. Definitely haven't seen it before, but it is on the list. It seems like it would be absolutely beautiful. Okay, here's today's question. Are you planning to watch the World Series? Your options, yes, no, or maybe a little. No judgment either way. You can vote now with a link in the show notes, and I'll have the results for you tomorrow. Time for that trivia answer. Do you remember the question? Which U.S. state has the shortest population by average height? That would be Hawaii. The Aloha State clocks in with the shortest average male height around 5'9", and for women about 5'3.5". The reason? Hawaii's beautifully diverse population includes large Asian and Hispanic communities, which tend to have shorter average heights compared to white and Black populations. And now that we're all thinking beautiful beach thoughts, right when the weather is starting to turn cooler for many of us, we come in for a landing. Thanks for joining me on your weekend. I always enjoy delivering the news. Be sure to comment, give us a review, share with a friend, and subscribe. We could not do this without you. Your support means so much. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Thanks for flying with us.